God or source consciousness or the creator doesn't perceive that the archons are bad and doing us humans a disservice. It just allows creation to unfold and experience itself. Hello, this is Sarita, and I'm here to help you understand the truth about who you are. So what I wanted to do today was a follow-on from my video about what constitutes a good death and the reincarnation soul trap and how to avoid it. Because what happened after that video was I got a load of questions from different followers. So I wanted to try and answer as many of those as I could, basically, in this video. Obviously, it's a very fascinating topic. It's death is something that we're all going to go through. And I believe that the more information we have to hand, the more expanded our consciousness, the more we can choose on many levels what happens to us as we move on and through this dimension. So I'm going to go straight to the questions and answer them as best I can. So let me begin. Sorry, I've got to go and find the questions. Okay. Okay, here's a load. Okay, so this is one of the first questions. If God source is unconditional love, God would not allow archons to keep stealing our energy. And if they do, why aren't we depleted of energy? Okay, so to answer that question, source consciousness and the creator has no judgment about what any of us choose or what is created. From the perspective, I imagine, because I'm not there yet in many ways, although I am there all of the time in many ways, the creator is just allowing all of the different perspectives of realities and all of the creations within those realities in accordance with their experience. So there's no judgment that the creator has around what's good or bad, what's right or wrong, what should or shouldn't be allowed. Anything that is created is essentially coming from source consciousness and is just offering different perspectives. So God or source consciousness or the creator doesn't perceive that the archons are bad and doing us humans a disservice. It just allows creation to unfold and experience itself. And I did do a video a while ago, it's probably over a year ago, which held a Gaia Sophia philosophy, which explained how archons were, if you like, birthed at the same time as Gaia Sophia, but held this energy, which was, if you like, an abortive attempt, while Sophia Gaia held the energy or the consciousness of flourishing creation. So the archons were birthed simultaneously to Gaia Sophia, but they held polarity of consciousness. One was, if you like, anti-creation, and one was creation. And in that, the archonic consciousness is a part of Gaia. And because we are aspects of Gaia, the archonic force is a part of us, which I believe is residing within our egoic constructs. And through our choices and through its nature, has been allowed to flourish within our ego and siphon our consciousness. And so therefore, in order to expel, if you like, or rise above being controlled and dictated to by this archonic force, we need to be able to rise above manipulation and giving away our sovereignty to something else through the integration of the ego with the heart. So it's the integration of that which is finite and siphons consciousness with infinite love. So it's the integration of ego with the heart through our higher awareness. And once we integrate that and we come into true sovereignty and an expanded consciousness, although the archonic aspect and the ego will always be there, it will not run the show of our lives. So basically, we have the free will choice of everything, and the creator is not going to choose that the archons shouldn't have free will and that the humans should. It's all kind of it's a melange. It's an integration of all of those aspects and what the resonant frequency is that each of us are holding, which allows source consciousness to know itself better. So it's the allowing of all of the aspects. So that's why the creator doesn't choose whether the archon should be allowed. The creator is unconditional love and therefore allows everything to be exactly as it is and to evolve everything exactly as it unfolds, okay, in accordance with everyone's free will and what plays out in frequency terms upon this planet. And this question also says the second part, and if the archons are stealing our energy, why aren't we depleted of energy? Well, the truth is we are depleted of energy. And the more sovereign that we become, the more we integrate the ego and start working from the heart, the more we come into things like conscious instant manifestation and the ability to co-create this planet with a higher sense of awareness. So, you know, many of us are ill and depleted and have given away our sovereignty, and we're not, many of us, although this is changing, are not flourishing. And that's because our consciousness is being perpetually siphoned through the manipulation of imagery, which we see in the news and throughout the internet and in thought forms that we're bombarded with, which basically puts many of us in a fear state. And when you're in a fear state, you are depleted of energy. It takes away, it doesn't take away our superpowers, but it kind of stops us having the ability to harness them and work with them in intentional, conscious ways, kind of supersonically. So as you do your inner spiritual work, you'll see that your consciousness is less and less siphoned. You become healthier, you become happier, you step into your purpose, your dreams start coming true because your thoughts are coming from a heart-centered activation. And in that, your sovereignty basically pushes out the archonic influence, and your energy becomes less and less depleted. So I hope I've answered that question. The next question is, by your logic, animals and plants are also in the soul trap, not just humans. And this wasn't the only question I had around animals. I had a few people asking me, you know, what happens to animals when we die? So I'm not so tapped into what's going on with animals on this planet. So this is my disclaimer. I am much more tapped into what is going on with humans upon this planet, because for some reason, this is the line of my work. So it's the trajectory of my purpose, is to be much more consciously aware of what's happening energetically with the human species. But from my understanding of animals and plants, everything is at different stages of consciousness. And therefore, we are holding different levels of frequency. And if you look around on our planet now, you will see that certain animals have a higher level of consciousness than other animals. So, you know, obvious things are kind of like whales and dolphins. But then also in your daily life, when you're looking at your cats and dogs, you will see that some of them feel more intrinsically human-like to you than others. So, for example, I've got 2 dogs. One is most certainly very, very dog-like. She's more wild in her nature. She's just more animal-like. And then I've got another dog, Charlie, who some of you have met when you've been on retreat. And it's like he's a human that doesn't quite understand why he's in a dog's body. And there's more ego in Charlie. He has abandonment issues because he's a rescue animal. We rescued him when he was a puppy and he was thrown out of a car. So he's got like abandonment issues. So there's more ego there. And what I see in our 2 dogs is that one is elevating its consciousness. It's moving into a more 3D, 4D level of consciousness as the ego begins to take hold, as the animal, in this case Charlie, becomes more self-aware. So Charlie's aware of being potentially abandoned. He has fear, not the kind of fear where, you know, a deer is chased by a lion and then it shakes itself off and it's completely forgotten. That's kind of an animal-like fear. It's a lower level of self-awareness. Charlie has a kind of higher level of self-awareness. So I think when we are looking at something like the reincarnation loop, and this applies to animals and humans and plants alike. I mean, look at oak trees. They have a higher level of consciousness than, I don't know, maybe grass. You can feel that, okay? So what you're looking at, everything on this planet is evolving in its consciousness. Sorry, I'm just checking that I'm still recording. Everything on this planet is evolving in its consciousness. Evolution is a constant motion here. But obviously, the energy on Earth is very dense. And if you have things that you need to learn here in order to assist with the evolution of consciousness, if there are things here on this planet that are going to assist you better with your evolution of consciousness, you will go into the reincarnation loop. Because whether the reincarnation loop is controlled by the archons or not, you choose whether you want to believe me or not in that idea. Coming here again and again and again is giving us many different perspectives and is assisting in our evolution of consciousness. So if there are things you need to learn and your frequency is denser, so it's more aligned to this planet, the chances are you will be pulled back here, okay? Time and time again, until your consciousness or your frequency elevates. So if you're coming from sort of fear, you know, abandonment like Charlie, or you've got issues of anger, or you're really stuck in your ego, those are dense frequencies. Or, and this is pertaining to another question that I got later, if there's something unresolved on this planet that you need to do, if you're into revenge because, I don't know, let's say you got murdered and there's something holding you in this planet, if you really miss your family, if you feel like you have to be here for your family, or if your family are missing you so much that they're kind of pulling you back, you may find you automatically go into these reincarnation loops, okay? So I would say that on this planet, animals and plants and many, many humans are looping back here automatically because the density aligns to their resonant frequency as they die, okay? Because when you die, it's, of course, we have the option, if we could sit in the void and have an easy or facilitated or good death, and have the option of expanding our awareness and perceiving the other options that are out there beyond the reincarnation trap. But for many people, their level of consciousness is not such that they have access to the void or those other options. Their frequency bandwidth is denser. It's more aligned to the lessons here on earth. So therefore, it's more aligned to the archonic manipulation of the reincarnation loop. But it's also more aligned to lessons that they need to learn here on this planet. So for animals, it's the same as humans. If they reach a level of consciousness that allows them to go into the alternate options, that's what may happen. But in all probability, I believe that they're going to come through the reincarnation loop more quickly and be more held here on this planet. And I think that may also be because humans really miss their animals when they die. You know, I see this a lot. I see a lot of devastation of friends and family when their animals pass. They're as devastated as if it was a family member, because, you know, a human family member, rather, I should say, because for them, it is their family. It is their pet that held them perhaps in unconditional love. And you can hold someone in unconditional love, but it doesn't mean that your frequency is the frequency of your consciousness is not aligned to a third dimensional level. So an animal may be able to love its owner, if you like, or its friend, owner, friend, in unconditional love, but it may still have feelings of fear and abandonment, like my dog. My dog just loves me unconditionally, but he still has these egoic issues that are keeping him in a lower density form. So I think the animals are going through the same evolutionary process that we are. Okay, but it's very difficult for me to answer a question about animals because I'm just not as tapped into that. So having said that, I also got a couple of comments from people who had near-death experiences, and for them, well, one of them or a couple of them said they immediately went through the tunnel, okay, but then were recalled back before they got to the other end. And what I would say is that the reason they immediately went through the tunnel was because, from what I gathered in the questions, their near-death experiences were shocking. So in other words, they were unexpected accidents. Now, when you have an unexpected accident, what's happening often, if you're not, you know, like a Buddhist monk and you're not completely calm all of the time and your level of consciousness is not always high, the shock and the trauma of that is going to, if you like, open the window to the reincarnation loop, because that reincarnation trap that we've gone through many, 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 many lifetimes, is the door to that is through trauma. It's through pain and suffering. And that's what recalls us back, because pain and suffering keeps us in low density. It keeps us connected to the life or the lives or the earth plane, if you like, that we've kind of already lived, that we still have more lessons to learn. So I've heard different people say, oh, you're out in the void for 40 days and 40 nights, or you're out in the void for 7 days, or the void is instant because there's no time. And I've heard all of these different theories, but what I really think happens is, in accordance to your resonant frequency, you can be reincarnated immediately. You can have a gap where you go and have a soul review. You can float around in the void for potentially what could be forever or nothing. I think it all depends on what you've learned, what your level of consciousness is doing, and how you have, and what you need to do best for your soul's best trajectory. And in the first video, remember I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you are pulled back here through the reincarnation trap, because if your density or frequency is aligned to that, clearly you have more lessons that you need to learn. Remember that all of us are always finding our way back eventually to creator consciousness, to take back the information from our individuated experiences and to, if you like, offer it to the whole, the creator, so that it can know itself better. So we're always evolving in that sense. Nothing is never evolving. And if you find yourself back in the reincarnation loop, there's probably a reason why. So I think some people are being reincarnated instantaneously. And in the two cases of the people who said that they went through the tunnel, clearly they were about to be reincarnated, but they got pulled back. So whether they'd gone straight through the tunnel and being reincarnated, or they'd come straight back, clearly their trajectory was to come back here for something else that they needed to learn. I had one person who asked me about the light. Let me go and find that question. So the question was, how do we know for sure that we are in the void and not being led back into the reincarnation cycle? Okay, so there's been a lot written about people who have near-death experiences and the reincarnation cycle and what happens. And there's a lot of similarities. So I think if this subject interests you, you need to go and study it, go and read and look at all the similarities of what's happened to people, because that will give you an idea to know whether you're in the void or whether you're in the reincarnation cycle. So the similarities are things like you see your body, somebody you love comes to greet you, you're taken through a tunnel of white light. You're then given a life review where you look back over your life, you see the aspects of cause and effect, karma, that your free will has created. And in many cases, you haven't even been using your free will, because you have been using it, but you've been abdicating it to the archons here on this planet. And then let's say you murdered somebody in your last life, during your life review, because you are apparently enveloped in this state or frequency of love, which I think in many cases is a bit like a false frequency. So it's a bit like a high, like when you're inebriated or when you're on drugs. So it's kind of a false high. In that high state, you then go, okay, I'm going to come back as a victim of a murderer so that I can see what it's like from this other perspective, and I can atone for my sins and get rid of my karma. And so then you immediately come back into the reincarnation loop as a victim, because you're being victimized, because you're in trauma, because you've even been born into trauma, having been shown you as a being who was aligned to trauma and victim and perpetrator consciousness. You now come back into trauma. It's easier for the archonic force to siphon you. You've gone through the veil of forgetting, so you don't even know why you're being traumatized, and then you go through it again. Okay, so there are some common factors that will tell you that you're in the reincarnation loop. Someone you love coming to get you, going through a ton of light, having a life review, and then choosing to remove your karma because of some kind of victim perpetrator consciousness. That's how you know you're in the reincarnation cycle. And I don't know how one would get out of that except through coming into a conscious awareness that you were in the reincarnation cycle. If you could come into a conscious awareness of that during the process, I imagine more options would open out to you, because as you come into conscious awareness of something, your perception expands and you see more of the spectrum that is available to you. Okay, more of the options that are available to you. I don't know what happens when you're in the void and what opens up as options. But from my meditation practice, when I sit in the void long enough, I feel in my body these extraordinary states which are akin to peace and bliss and excited curiosity. I've also reached levels when I'm in my meditation experiences where the darkness of the void begins to show itself as light, not a tunnel of light, but light which is coming from everywhere and which begins to then turn into geometric patterns and shapes and things that I probably couldn't even call geometry, which hold information which somehow I intrinsically understand and feel very aligned to. So what I imagine happens when you're in that voided state is the darkness then opens up into light and expanded information in which you then know more, and you know the options that are available, and as the creator, because you're knowing more, you literally turn your attention to one option and you're in it. I feel that that is what happens, or you could say I know that that is what happens if you can sit in the void long enough. And I know it like you just know things in the bones and cells of your being. And I think that despite the veil of forgetting, what's happened to me, and I suspect many of you on this road of awakening and evolution, is you began to remember who you were. And when you started to remember who you were through your inner work and through meditating and ceremony and breath work and all the things that you do, more things, you just know more because you are remembering who you are. So that's one piece that I've remembered. And another piece that I've remembered is I've remembered what fifth dimensional consciousness feels like. I have memory of that. And so that I know that that is an option when you die, because I must have gone into that at some point and then chosen to come back in here now. Or maybe I'm doing all of those things simultaneously. So I think that's what happens. I think the darkness becomes, if you like, specks of light, which then open up and show us information, and then we choose with our attention. Let me get to another question. Oh, the question is, how can we open up more to what is beyond the blackness within the void to identify a specific place to go upon death? I've just answered that question. Okay, so another question. I learned that souls can choose their own lives pre-birth with the help of spirit guides. If spirit guides' ancestors become fake or AI in a simulation, then that means all of us would become fake after death as well. Ha, what a huge question. Okay, so you're basically asking, are we real or are we simulation? And the very quick question, the very quick answer to that is we're both. I believe that this is a simulation. Through everything I've learned now, down every path I've gone, I now absolutely believe that this is a simulation. It's a learning experience, simulation, trap or no. It's a learning experience, simulation. And I know that more and more of you are beginning to think things, and then they are showing up in your news feed. So the news feed of your internet, but also showing up in the news feed of your reality all around you. This is not when you're being recorded by your phone. It's not your conversations. These are your thoughts now that are instantaneously showing up in the newsfeed of your reality, and you recognize them because they're showing up in the news feed of the AI information that is being generated by things like Google. So Google, the AI programs, are showing us, if you like, the artificial simulation programs of everything that is going on around us. That does not mean that beyond this simulation, which we are co-creating with archons and with our fellow human beings and with the consciousness of Gaia Sophia, that does not mean that beyond the simulation, there isn't creator consciousness. Of course there is, okay? So whatever is bringing us back, so she's saying with the help of spirit guides and our ancestors, we choose our next lives. We do choose our next lives. Sometimes we choose them with our ancestors and our spirit guides because there are things that we need to learn here. Sometimes those are false because they are part of the archonic simulation, which is kind of a trap and it's fake. And sometimes we're choosing them because of what we're holding in our resonant frequency and what we needed to learn. So it's not even a conscious choice. We just get pulled back into the reincarnation cycle. There's so much I could say about simulation, but I'm trying to answer about death, so I'm not going to go on about that. But I have made other videos on that, and perhaps I should make some more. Okay. So souls supposedly choose their deaths before birth already. So by what definition would a good death be? Okay, yes. What I perceive is that we choose the moment of our death, or there are 1, 2, or maybe 3 moments where if we turned left or right on the crossroads of our lives, we may perhaps choose a different death. But I think it's pretty much preordained when we're in the reincarnation soul trap. So in other words, when we're behaving in unconscious ways, we are, if you like, victims to that. If one doesn't do their inner work and one doesn't begin to remember who they are or what their purpose is upon this planet, the chances are you're probably not going to have a very good death. For many reasons. One is we don't talk about death. Everyone's frightened of it. So people are in fear states. The people are by your bedside are in a state of fear and loss and abandonment. You're freaking out because you don't know what's going to happen to you. You're drugged, or you've been in an accident because you've been on, all of these kind of things stop us having a good death. But like I said, if you've done a lot of inner work, and you were your resonant frequency was at a higher level. So let's say you were holding a resonant frequency of joy or peace or surrender, as opposed to anxiety and fear all of the time, or worry. The chances are, even if you were in a horrific car crash, like I've just said earlier, your frequency would allow you to perceive an expanded plethora of options up there, because your frequency would not be so dense that you are being recalled back into this third dimensional reality. A good death, of course, is where you are at peace with what's coming, where you understand that you are in a transitional process, possibly one that's super exciting and absolutely fascinating. You are going to go into a new beginning and everyone at your bedside is celebrating and excited for you and is holding with you the trajectory or the intention that you are going to be able to perceive more options and more choice beyond this physical body. So I think a lot of what keeps people in the reincarnation loop is that fear, which puts you in the egoic brainwave state, is aligned to survival instincts, fight, flight, freeze, and wants the same. Because when you're in survival mode, when you're in the ego, you want the familiar because it's safer. This is why people will stay with an abusive partner, even if they're being beaten up, because the phrase is, it's better the devil you know. It's safer to stay where you are because out there, anything could happen and it's super scary. And so I think a lot of people are stuck in the reincarnation loop because they'd rather feel safe because they're already in a low vibrational state of fear, and they'd rather come back to what they know, which is this reality, and more being siphoned by the archonic forces and, you know, doing this, whatever it is they're doing, 9 to 5 thing, or just being here with family and friends and humans. They'd rather know that than go into the unknown, because as I said in the first video, being in the void, if you haven't practiced it, is scary. You know, when I first started meditating, I was scared that I was going to leave my body and not come back. And I was really, really scared of, because I would go to the edge and I could feel I was teetering into nothingness, and it would really scare me. And I'd bring my, you know, my ego would pull me back. And now I'm like, just surrendering into, take me there. It's the most exciting thing. Those kind of fears have completely gone. It's like my fear of demonic forces has gone. You know, I'm a shamanic practitioner. I've seen some pretty scary demons a couple of times. And so they don't scare me anymore because I've been in the unknown. And once we face our fears, there are more options open to us. All opportunities open to us when we're not in the familiar. So good death would be being open to the unknown, basically. And for everyone around you being open to the unknown, even if that meant that they would miss you. That they're more into you having the time of your life than them holding on to you because of their egoic issues. Someone said, what is there to do if we somehow escape the tunnel of light, float aimlessly in the cosmos while everyone else is still trapped? No. I mean, basically, we don't know what there is beyond that. I think some people can go straight back to source consciousness. I think a lot of humans become assistants, let's say, of fifth dimensional consciousness. They're assisting humanity. I think there's infinite options available. And I've had a lot of questions from this one person, and I'm getting a sense that there's a kind of trajectory of, I don't want to imply what this person thinks, but there's a trajectory of thinking that humans are everything. They're not everything. There are a lot of other species out there. There's a lot of other stuff going on in a lot of other planets. We don't know anything of what's going on out there. Out there is infinity, and we're just one tiny little thing. So I think the options are numerous. There are so many numerous options. We could incarnate as something else. Goodness knows what the options are. So I think there is an option of floating around aimlessly while everyone else is trapped in the reincarnation loop. And I think that on many levels, if you were to find yourself in that situation, that would be through choice, through the beliefs that you are holding within you. So that's what I would say to that. All souls, this person has also written, all souls, including the archons, are aspects of source, and source is never really trapped. That is true. You are never really trapped. You are free to make choices all of the time. And what we're doing on this planet is we are choosing to align to the archonic reincarnation loop or not, depending on what resonant frequency and beliefs that you're holding. And everything is changing right now. So yes, beyond this simulation, there's infinite freedom and infinite possibilities. But on this planet, we are in this kind of archonic trap. And it's one option for people who are on this planet in that density of belief. This person's also written, souls don't always have to suffer or amend karma to learn. Every day is a different learning experience for source and the soul. Yes, I would agree to that. And I think karma has been very misinterpreted. Karma is the law of cause and effect. And we can choose in every now moment a completely different reality. It's all about how you think and feel about yourself, basically, which is choosing the next moment of your reality. You are not walking around in a simulation that is predetermined. You are creating the entire universe of this simulation in every now moment in accordance with how you think and feel. So basically, in every moment, there's a whole new universe. There's no timeline in the sense of past, present, future. Your past is actually not dictating your future. It's your present moment choices that are dictating your next present moment choice. And once you understand that, you really step into creator consciousness. But going back to the first question, if your consciousness is being siphoned by the archons, because that's choices you've made, you're not going to have as much inclination, because you're being mind controlled, or energy to make changes so quickly and easily. It's going to take a level of work to begin to comprehend that. Another question, what about aliens and other planets? Are there reincarnation traps too? No idea, but there's infinite possibility. So I imagine yes and no. And this person's also said, I don't see any reason to trust this universe if the soul trap theory is true. And I think a lot of our evolution of consciousness is turning inwards and remembering oneself as the creator and trusting oneself to make more and more conscious decisions in each moment that is presented. Let me see if there are any other questions. I think that might be everything, and that's quite a lot. So I've been talking for ages. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's answered a few questions for a few of you. I would like to reiterate, all of this information that I'm bringing you is coming through my own perspective and my own knowing. If it resonates with you on a very heart-centered level, fantastic. Take the information. That's really great. If it doesn't, dump it, because this is your reality. It's your universe, and you are creating it in every moment. And there's co-creation going on this planet. So if you want to co-create something completely different with a different set of humans or animals, I guess, then do that. Do not take what I know verbatim, because I really feel like the lessons that we are learning here is to stop getting information from the outside in. We need to get it from the inside out. So hopefully my answers may have triggered light bulbs inside of you, but don't take my stuff and pull it in and take my beliefs and turn them into yours. Take my information, feel within you, and then find your own way through. So I hope that's been helpful, and I'm sending you all my love. Please like and share and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. Come to my website, see what I'm doing. I have a lot of free stuff on my website. I have recorded courses that you can do to learn the truth of who you are. I have in-person retreats that I run here at my retreat center in Aquitaine, France. It's very beautiful. Come and work with me in person. I would love to meet you. And for now, lots of love and goodbye.